Well, there is a lot of layers to me. Most business owners realize that they need a real bookkeeper when they are panicking. So think about like Shark Tank. The sharks are asking them all these different questions about their numbers, and most people are like, I don't know.
I have to give a shout out to Willita's LinkedIn. I found her on LinkedIn years ago, and I thought that her posts were phenomenal.
CPA-ready means that all of your books is going to be reconciled, categorized, and documented. It means that your CPA can pull the reports and trust the reports. I have a daughter who's looking up to me, so it makes me want to put my best foot forward all the time because I know she's watching. I truly enjoy working with business owners. Most people businesses fail around 72% of the time. I have to help decrease that number. Bye, you guys.
Willita, thank you for joining me for this conversation today.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Just want to let the audience get a chance to know a little bit more about you and what brought you to starting Willita Cherie Bookkeeping.
Well, there is a lot of layers to me. To kind of give you a small glimpse, I have 2 degrees in health science, so completely unrelated to this field. But the funny thing is while I was studying for my health science degrees, or at least for my undergrad, I always sat inside of the business school where they had both the accounting, like for CPAs, and the business, like everybody was collaborating in that one building. And I always studied there because I was always fascinated with numbers, but I thought my parents would be more happy if I went like a health science route. They could care less. So basically, I have had a personal finance business teaching personal finances for over 10 years. And my daughter, because I got pregnant, and my daughter decided to come at a little bit early, 3 months early. And
Oh, wow.
my business came to a sudden stop. Like I didn't have time to plan anything like I thought I was going to be able to plan because I'm a planner. And so she was in a NICU for 75 days. And when she got out, I became her full-time caretaker. And so it got to the point where I was like, can I do business again? Like, I want to be present for my daughter, but I also really love doing business and helping people. What can I do? But when I did personal finances, people always ask if I can manage their money. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so now in this transition of me now being a mom, I'm like, okay, so how can I come back? And I don't know why in the world I did this, but I was on YouTube and I clicked on the ad. And I never click on YouTube ads. And this guy was talking about bookkeeping and how flexible your schedule can be, how you can work from anywhere, how like the income potential and how you can help save businesses. And so I'm like, that could be a way I can actually help manage people's money is with bookkeeping. And so I looked into it. He had a 5-day challenge. I did the challenge and I absolutely loved it. I was like, this is something I can do because there were so many stay-at-home moms doing bookkeeping and they were being very successful at it. So I'm like, okay, there's already a proven community out there that's showing that they can do this. And so I just basically said, I'll add this as a service that I provide where I don't handle your personal finances, but I will handle your business finances via bookkeeping. And that's pretty much how I got into bookkeeping. It just aligned with me being able to be a mom with the flexibility. And it also was aligned with me helping people with their finances, but more so on the business side of things.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you're able to, there's a lot of value you can bring on the bookkeeping side. And it sounds like you kind of had an aha moment where you're like, well, I can do this and help all the people with, the things that they're asking me for and what you're obviously very talented in. So that's awesome. All right. So I'm curious because as you know, I run a service-based business myself. When does a service-based business owner typically realize they need actual bookkeeping and that they've outgrown running their business from their bank balance?
Most business owners realize that they need a real bookkeeper when they are panicking, when things are going wrong. They're not really proactive in knowing in advance. So it may come when it's tax time and they got to talk to their CPA. And the CPA is asking for their profit and loss statements. And they're just like, what is that? Like, I don't know what a profit and loss statement is. Also, they may be doing really, really well at their business because, they're really good at what they do. And now the demand is higher And so now they're looking at they may need to hire more staff, but they're not even sure if they can hire more staff because they've never really known the numbers to know how much they can pay a person to come in for, how many hours. Like they don't know the logistics about any of that because they don't know their books. And then they don't know about cash flow. So they may think that they're making $40,000 a month, but really they may only take home like $10,000 a month because they haven't accounted for taxes, expenses, emergencies, um, their profit, their salary. They haven't accounted for all of that. So the actual number that they see in their account doesn't really reflect how much cash flow they can, or not necessarily even cash flow, but how much they can allocate towards whatever goal they have to grow. And this may happen when they want to get venture capitalists involved, or they're trying to get some type of funding, and the investors want to see, or the banks want to see, like what your numbers look like, and they can't present that. So think about like Shark Tank, when the sharks are asking them all these different questions about their numbers, and most people are like, I don't know, I just know how to invent stuff. Well, when you're trying to grow a business, it's very important to know your numbers, but most people don't really know they need a bookkeeper until they get to that point, to the point of taxes, and they don't. They and the CPA are having a hard time coordinating. They want to grow, but they don't even know how much they can use to grow. And they want to get funding, but they don't have the proper documentation for them to be able to get the funding they need. So it's more so they realize when things go wrong rather than being proactive about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I like the Shark Tank reference. It's they always grill them on what's your customer acquisition cost. I imagine you have no idea if you're not doing bookkeeping what that number even means. So yeah, I like that example. It kind of reminds me a lot of times, when I'm doing retirement planning, what I hear from people is they're like, I don't know what I don't know. Like I understand how this works. I understand how this works. I don't know how it all comes together. And so I'm kind of curious when you're running into people, is it kind of through conversations with you, or maybe through conversations with someone else that led to a conversation with you or someone like you? Is it kind of like I understand that I'm missing some pieces. There's some things that I don't know, and you're kind of able to bring all that together and bring clarity for them.
I would say most of the time, because I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn, and then I kind of give people insight about, like, as a business owner, this is what you're good at. If you are doing your books, this is what I'm looking at, so that they can have an understanding of what I'm looking for when I'm working with their business. And so I think that's when most people kind of get the aha, like, oh, I might need a bookkeeper, when they realize from my postings that they don't have everything put together the way they thought they did. So I think it's more like me educating people, and then them getting curious, wanting to know more behind the scenes about how that fits with their personal business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So very much kind of you take an educational approach, and that's how people are finding you and coming to you. And I just have to give a shout out to Willita's LinkedIn. I actually found her on LinkedIn years ago, and I thought that her posts were phenomenal. Anyone on LinkedIn, definitely add Willita, even if you're just looking for an example of how to provide good content. But yeah, that totally makes sense. So people are kind of coming to you because of the educational content that you're putting out there. So I think that's great.
Mhm.
And so you specialize in businesses. You do roughly in the 100 to $500,000 range. I know you have the capability to work with people at higher revenue, but that's kind of your sweet spot. What makes this the sweet spot for the services that you provide, that range?
Well, like you said, people outside of those ranges could use bookkeepers, but what I've learned is that most people usually under 75K, more so 100K, they want to do more DIY because their margins are so small, and they just feel as though they can't hire a good bookkeeper. And so what the approach is that I have a community where I try to educate people who are not able to pay me or anybody else for bookkeeping on how to manage those books themselves, because at that point, like, they're making money, so they still have enough time in the schedule where they can do the bookkeeping themselves. But after you get past 100K, you're more busy. and you don't have that extra 5 to 10 hours a month to try to do your own bookkeeping. Because when you weigh the pros and the cons of doing that, if you're paying your bookkeeper, and just throwing out a wild number, just so you guys know, because all bookkeepers' prices are different. But let's just say your bookkeeper charges $50 an hour, and you can make in your business $300 an hour. You're essentially exchanging $300 an hour times 10, when you could just pay like a bookkeeper to do that work for you. So the point I'm making is that people within that range of 100K to 500K, they're more busy, so they have the money now, but they don't have the time, and they realize that they're growing at a rapid speed that they were before they made 100K, and so they need to start to hire in a team. And I would recommend, when people are beginning to hire their team, not just because I'm a bookkeeper, but I do think your first hire should be a bookkeeper, because they're going to be the key player to help you with connecting with your CPA, which is somebody you need to hire, your financial planner, which is somebody you will want to hire. Everybody will be able to come together cohesively when you have your bookkeeper. It helps people understand their opportunity costs in this time, because now they're at the phase where they can hire. They're at the phase where they are ready to grow and scale. They're at the phase where they don't really understand their numbers, so they need more clarity on their numbers. And so for me, that 100K to 500K made the most sense for bookkeeping. But as you said, I can also work with people outside that range. It's just I found that people within that range are more so willing to pay somebody like myself to do their books.
Gotcha. Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's kind of in that area where that's certainly different growth from say 50,000 to 200,000 is probably different pain points in growth between than 500 to 700,000, for example. So you're really kind of people are finding you when they need that clarity at the most. And really anyone who's a good executive and growing a business, they understand the opportunity cost of their time, and they're willing to delegate to someone who can probably do it better, look at it from a different perspective, and provide some more clarity and direction by hiring at that time. So that makes a ton of sense to me. At first, when I saw that, I was kind of like, why would that be the range for a bookkeeper to target? The way that you just answered that makes total sense. It's kind of like the biggest pain point is probably in that area for growth, and where you could probably provide the most value and clarity to people are when they're in that range. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Sorry. Um, Also, I wanted to note that I am not a CFO or fractional CFO. So when people are past the 500K mark, they may want fractional CFO advice, insights, which I'm not that. So that's also why I thought it'd be a better idea to stay away from the higher income after 500K. But I learned from business owners in the $1 million and even a $10 million range that they still want a good bookkeeper. They'll hire a separate CFO, but they still want a good bookkeeper. But that 100 to 500K is when people are looking for their first bookkeeper. And usually, if you have a good one, you'll keep them like you keep your good doctor. You don't just get rid of them. So as you are growing,
Right.
you would keep your bookkeeper, which is why it would make sense that I don't limit the 500K, that I expand that to work with people beyond that. It's just I believe that when people are looking, that's the group that's looking to hire me.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So if someone, I don't know how much you've maybe ran into this, because I would imagine with just the way that you're marketing yourself and people are finding you, they're probably at the point where they're looking for help with their books. But have you ever had a scenario where you could bring a ton of value, that you could really help, their books are a mess, but they don't want to let go of that. They're kind of like, oh, my books are fine. I don't want to, add a cost of hiring someone to help me. I can do all this on, I can sit on QuickBooks on Saturday night and figure this out. Do you get a lot of pushback from that? And if you do, kind of do you have some quick kind of tests that you are, maybe not tests, but quick questions that you ask them just to kind of get a idea of how well they're actually doing with their books?
Yeah, so the biggest thing now is that we live in the age of AI. And so most people are wondering why would they want to hire a human when they can just have their AI do all the bookkeeping. But the thing is that there are still things that currently in today's society, in the time that we live in, that humans still need to be useful for your business. So if I ask you, when was the last time you reconciled your accounts, and you don't know because your AI doesn't know how to do it, then it means that you are not fine. You need to have a bookkeeper. If I ask you, can you pull up your profit and loss statements? Most people are using they're using software that tracks their expenses and their income, but that's really all it's doing. It's just tracking your income and your expenses, but it's not able to really generate your profit and loss statements. So if it's not able to generate your profit and loss statements, or if you yourself are doing your books and you can't do that, then you may want to hire a bookkeeper, because again, that helps you with your tax time with your CPA. And it also will help you when you want to try to get funding. So those are some tests that you can use. Also, are you able to, off the top of your head, or at least like go to a file and know how much taxes you'll owe for the quarter? Because if you don't know how much taxes you'll be owing, you don't want to get surprised at the last minute. So you will probably want a bookkeeper so you stay on top of taxes, because trust me when I tell you that Uncle Sam does not play about his money. If you are behind, he will seize your account, and you do not want your account locked down because you forgot you owe money for taxes. And then it's kind of like, if I were to call your CPA and say, hey, how is such and such books? And then they're like, oh my gosh, they're so unorganized. This client takes up 25% of my time because I'm always having to go through all of their stuff. Then it means you're having a bad relationship with your CPA, because you are so unorganized and you don't make their job easy. So if all these things are questions I ask you, like I said, reconciliation, when was the last time you did that? If I ask you about your profit and loss statement, if you don't know what that is or where that is, then you need a bookkeeper. If I ask you how much are you expected to pay back in taxes, or you estimated to pay back in taxes, if you can't answer that, you need a bookkeeper. And if I ask you, what would your CPA say about your books? And you would say they would complain about the condition of your books, then you probably want to hire a bookkeeper.
Yeah, and one thing, the mess with the CPA, I imagine most CPAs are charging pretty high fees for hourly work. I imagine that working with you, that can significantly reduce the hourly work that a CPA has to do. Probably they're doing it less efficiently than you, who, that's what you're specialized in doing for that particular client. It can probably save money for people when they consider the ease that the CPA can help them instead of dealing with a mess, for sure.
Yeah, because the CPA, you got to think like they went and got their license and degrees so that they can do taxes. That's what they love to do. But they know how to do cleanups and things like that, but it's not what they desire to do. So when you are coming to them with work that they can do, but they don't desire to do, you sometimes make their job a lot harder because they're doing tasks that is taken away from doing other jobs that they love to do. So yes, just think about your CPA the next time you don't do your books, on what kind of workload you're adding to them that would make them not as happy as your CPA, versus if you have a bookkeeper doing all the work, and then all you do is give them the paperwork and they can say, okay, this job here I love. I love filing taxes. I love giving you strategies about your taxes. And so let's do it. Like, it just will make everybody happy in the situation. So I just think, a bookkeeper will make everybody's lives easier. Yours, mine, and theirs.
Yeah, certainly. And one thing that kind of caught my attention is you talk about done for you bookkeeping, and I'm curious what that actually looks like on a month to month basis. So, like, what do you handle? What does the client do? And, what do they get back in return? And also, if you want to kind of elaborate, I know service based is where you're working with, but just kind of an idea of some of the industries that your typical clients are in.
So the typical clients that I work with are coaches, consultants, agencies, professional services, and pretty much anybody. Like, you can be a creative, or I don't know, an influencer. As long as you have a service based business, then you are a good candidate. And it's not that I don't do products. It's just kind of like with the 100 to 500K, this is my sweet spot. But what it will look like working with me as a bookkeeper is that I will manage your weekly transactions. I will categorize all of your transactions, because what you don't want is all these miscellaneous transactions where we don't know if that's a software, we don't know if that's a bill, we don't know if it's you just bought a new piece of equipment. So I make sure that every time you make a purchase, I put a label on what that purchase is. And then I'll do your monthly reconciliations and close. So basically that means every purchase you make needs to match your card or your account that the money's coming from. So everything needs to look the same. It needs to mirror the same. You shouldn't have a transaction of $10,000, but then when I look on your bank statement or your credit card statement or your account, that doesn't show up. So then I have to ask, like, where is this coming from? Like, which account did this come from? So making sure everything matches would be the monthly reconciliation. Then also making sure you have your reports. It's up to you as a business owner to say like how often you want your reports done, but it's best practices to have them done monthly. So that way you can catch, how you can catch the health of your business early versus doing it annually and then you realize, oh my gosh, like I'm in a bad condition. That's pretty much what I do on a monthly basis in a gist. I do more, but that's like the traditional bookkeeping things that you would expect. But what a customer would need to provide is all of their receipts. And there are different ways to capture all of the expenses. QuickBooks has a way to capture it. There's a platform called Expensify. I'm partnered with a company called Ramp, which captures all of your expenses, and then it puts it inside of QuickBooks. And then also, what you'd have to do is be available for me to ask clarifying questions. So if I see a expense and I don't understand what the expense is, I would maybe have to call you or email you to ask, okay, I'm seeing this expense here. It's unfamiliar. Do you mind explaining to me what this is so I can properly categorize it? And then you also have the monthly 30-minute optional reviews with me, where once you get your reports, I can explain what the numbers mean. Now, I'm not helping you like a CPA to tell you how to use the numbers, but I am going to explain to you what those numbers mean. Like I would tell you, okay, you're spending a lot of money in this area here. Why don't you think about adjustments? If your goal is to make more profit, maybe you can reduce this area. Or this is what your profit was this month versus last month. Are you okay with the profit margins? Because if not, then this is when you talk to your CPA or your CFO to figure out a plan on how to get that profit better. So that's pretty much what I do. I help you to just have simply clean books. I keep it simple, I keep it clean, and I make it easy for you to understand. So that's pretty much what done for you books look like. It's just making sure everything stays organized, making sure all of your reports are properly done so that you can have it for your CPAs and also for your financial planner, and making sure you are able to make decisions when you need to because you understand all of your numbers.
Yeah, definitely. That I wonder too, as you work with people, sometimes as a, financial advisor, some people have a certain idea of what that means and what they help with. And then through conversations, something comes up like figuring out what they're going to get for Medicare supplement or Advantage, or figuring out like a Social Security filing strategy, or whatever the case may be. And I'm always eager to jump in and help and make sure that, really, if we're doing it right, that's implemented in your whole plan. So I guess the point I'm making is sometimes I get like, oh, I didn't know that you did this too. Like I thought you just helped with investments or whatever the case may be. That's what my thought of what a financial advisor was. I imagine there's probably sometimes as you get into working with people where you have kind of that similar moment where you're providing maybe a lot more value than, or in areas you're providing value that they maybe didn't even think that, a bookkeeper would be able to provide value. So I think everything you just said, just it kind of made me think of that. You probably can relate to that feeling of, oh, well, I can help you out with that as well as you kind of get into relationships with people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, again, they think that all I do is just document transactions all day. and that's it. They don't. That's why I don't. I think maybe they don't see the value because they're like, well, AI can just do that. But it's like, well, AI can do that, but I do provide a lot more value than just automating your finances because I can help you have a human approach, right? I can help you to make judgment calls that the software you're using may not be able to highlight to you. So, yeah, I think people underestimate what a good bookkeeper is because there are bookkeepers, but there's a difference between a good bookkeeper and a bad bookkeeper. Most will just take your money. They will just only do your transactions and categorize. They probably will give you your statements, but they probably won't explain what those statements mean. So you'll have a bunch of
Sure.
paperwork and don't know what that paperwork means. And my goal is for you to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, which so it'll make you feel much better as to why you're paying me to do this job.
Yeah, certainly. So you hit on this a little bit earlier that tax time is usually kind of a big aha moment where it's like my books are a mess. I need to figure this out. Would you say that is, when most people come to you is in a stressful tax situation? And from your perspective, what causes the scramble and what does being, with someone working with you CPA ready, how does that look different than when they first come to you in that kind of scramble mode?
When a person comes to me, it's probably going to be around tax time, which is now, because especially if they need to
Hmm.
clean up, which means that they've allowed their finances to just accumulate without categorizing them properly, not reconciling things like that. And so there's a probably months or years worth of that needs to get done. And the CPA is going to charge them, like you said earlier, an arm and a leg to get that job done. But CPA ready means that all of your books is going to be reconciled, categorized, and documented. It means that your CPA can pull the reports and trust the reports because they know that the bookkeeper who has a more keen eye is going to make sure there's more accuracy versus like the individual who may do it themselves. They may do it, but they may not know what exactly to look for to make sure there's no errors. And then make sure their books are closed 2 weeks of the month and all year round. So that is what CPA ready books will look like. It's being very proactive. It's making sure you get ahead of the game. Not like I said earlier, come in scrambling because you're like, I got all these receipts. I need them to be categorized, or I don't know how much money I owe on taxes, but the CPA can't figure it out until I have all this stuff documented properly. So it's basically making sure you don't stress out yourself in the CPA by giving your CPA 12 months to work in February with no reconciliations. So that's what scrambling looks like is waiting to the very last minute to try to get a year's worth of work done in about a week or a month. Because you won't be that CPA's only client, I could assure you. But you are going to take up a majority of their time because you are coming to them with the whole year's worth of work. And the filing usually, depending on the year, is almost always going to be April 15th. So they're going to spend a lot of time working on your books when you can just come with your ready-made statements, like I mentioned, and they can get it done very quickly. So that's the difference between being proactive versus scrambling. It's just making sure everything is done monthly so that everything is ready for tax time instead of waiting till tax time, giving them a year's worth of work that hasn't been touched.
And right at the time when they're the most busy, I imagine it's tax time. I know CPAs are busy. I imagine bookkeepers are busy. So it's kind of the unfortunate timing that when they are in chaos, it's probably a whole bunch. It's probably a whole bunch of people in chaos at once. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
bad for CPAs and bookkeepers on that, but that's where you bring the value of having that ongoing relationship with them afterwards. So that's always great.
Yeah.
Curious if you see any crossover with bookkeeping and then a personal financial advisor and how that kind of works as a collaboration together.
Yeah. So you would want to have both. especially as you grow in your business. And the reason is because as a bookkeeper, I'm basically handling your financial house. I'm handling all your numbers financially. And then somebody like Connor, who's a CFP, he can help you with your personal financial future. So you need somebody to have your understanding of your business, and then somebody who has understanding of your personal finances. But the thing is that it can merge because all of the statements that I create, if I give them to Connor, it can help him make decisions for you. So if you want to do retirement contributions, he can help you with that by looking at the statements. If you want to learn about tax efficiencies, all of the statements that I provide, you can give those to Connor, and he can help you make good decisions. Even something as simple as like, I'm an LLC. Is it a good idea that I now transition to become an S corp or a C corp? Because he understands numbers, he can be able to help you make that decision on if it's time to transition or not. And then the information that I keep as far as tracking like your profit, your income, your expenses, your taxes, not tracking your taxes, but the money you put aside for taxes, and also just having emergency money. With all of that information, Connor can help you make informed decisions about what, from his professional scope, is going to be the best action plan for you to be able to reach the goals you want to reach, both in business and in financials. If I'm honest, because if you have something in business that you want to accomplish, he has the knowledge to be able to do it. But if you also have goals financially, like, okay, I want to be able to sell my business by the time I'm this age, he can help you make a growth in the exit strategy so that you can be able to do that. So I think that collaborating with both the bookkeeper and a financial planner would be giving you a holistic view of your finances so that you can make an informed decision on both your business and your personal finances side of things.
Yeah, certainly, and kind of similar to what you said about working with a CPA or come tax filing time, putting everything together at that point. As a financial advisor, if I'm working with a small business owner, if they don't have good books, that really limits the ability that I'm able to provide them with some insights and some planning. So really, I know on my end, if I was working with a small business owner and they didn't have good bookkeeping, that'd be one of the biggest areas where I could hopefully kind of get them to improve. Because as we've kind of talked about, that improves the tax planning, that improves the personal financial planning, retirement planning. It's kind of everything is held together by having good books. That's why I'm so interested in what you do and how you work with clients. So yeah, I think that that certainly makes sense. All right, Willita. Well, we've talked a lot about bookkeeping today. So I want to zoom out a little bit for the final question. What's something about you that people might not know and you don't mind sharing?
Um, well, that's a great question. If you want to go on more of the personal side of things, I love traveling and I have traveled to many countries. I mentioned before that I'm a mom and she's two, my daughter's two. And so trying to run a business and being a mom is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I was summa cum laude for my master's program. I got accepted as one of 12 people for my undergrad program. I was over a department when I worked as a health science teacher. But all of that, even running a business like as a non-mom was much easier than working with a toddler. So I think I have managed now all scopes of life when it comes to um, being good with time management and being productive, because my daughter makes sure that I stay on my P's and Q's. Like she's a toddler and she's at the age where she likes to be in my face all the time. So it has taught me patience. It has taught me how to be kinder than I thought I was. And um, yeah, it's actually helped me to become more resilient when it comes to running a business, because now it's not just about myself. I have a daughter who's looking up to me. So it makes me want to put my best foot forward all the time, because I know she's watching. So I would say most people probably don't know that um, that I am a mom because I don't put her online. But I also homeschool her in addition to all of this. So she's a pretty smart kid, I might add. She's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But in terms
beautiful. And
of
yeah,
but in terms of like something business, I would say that something that people may not know is that I truly enjoy working with business owners because when I found out that most people businesses fail around 72% of the time, I was like, I have to help decrease that number. Like, there's no way people can have all this talent, all this knowledge and skills to share with the world, but they get shut down because their numbers are going to force them to shut down. So, yeah, that's some fun facts about me, I guess. Hopefully that's getting to know me a little bit better.
yeah, no, I love that. At the end, the passion behind working with business owners, I think, being a business owner yourself, that you can put yourselves in people's shoes and wanting to help them succeed. Also, beautiful what you said about with your daughter. I have a 9 month old, so he's just getting to where he's in my face all the time. So I imagine that gets even more and more as time goes on. But what you said, I completely agree with it puts a whole different perspective in your life when you have a child that you're taking care of, and it does force you to be more resilient, more patient, more kind, and also it puts a little bit more purpose behind doing what you're doing. So I completely agree with that, and I love that. I loved how you put that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Willita works with a limited number of done for you clients at a time. If you're a service based business owner looking for clarity, I'll put her contact information in the description. I'll also, she does have a YouTube channel. She's going to be doing more content on that. I'll include that as well. And like I said, her LinkedIn is phenomenal. Even if you're just looking at an example of someone who puts out really good LinkedIn content, she's definitely worth following on there. And yeah, so thank you for coming on today, Willita. As always, money is a tool, knowledge is freedom, and planning is power. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me on. Bye, you guys.